Man, today's I'm happy, man. We're blessed, man, to have this opportunity, man, to sit down with you and just hear about your story, man, your Oceanside story. Man, how about you tell us who you are, bro?
Cool, thanks, man. Raul Ragudo, Rat Lil Ratt. They call me Lil Ratt from the streets. Uh, been here all my life, born and raised, TriCity. I'm 44 now, and my family is from the East Side. Uh, that's my dad's family, big East Side family, and my mom. We're brought up in TriCity with my mom's side of the family, Hawaiians over here, and yeah, so we've been here. Both sides of our family have been here for a long time. My grandmother on my dad's side uh, are immigrants from Mexico. My dad is also, so I'm a first generation here in Oceanside, so to say. My mom's side of the family came here after the Vietnam War and just made it home instead of going back to Hawaii. And so, yeah, I have my family is still strong. We're still holding it together. Now it's just me and my wife and our two kids.
That's awesome, man.
Still here in Oceanside.
So your kids are Hawaiian, Mexican,
Yeah,
black,
bro.
and white.
There's a lot. And that's the Oceanside story, right? I mean, we're a diverse town, and my wife, being black and white, I'm actually Hawaiian on my dad's side. I mean, on my mom's side. Actually, I'm a little more Portuguese, Portuguese, Hawaiian. There's even some traits of German there. Okay. My dad's side, it's Filipino and Mexican. My dad's dad is from the Philippines. That's my last name is Ragudo.
So your grandfather's Filipino.
Yeah.
Then you got the whole city,
I'm
man.
in it. I'm
Yeah.
in it, brother. Yeah, man, this is Oceanside for real. Okay, so.
And that's something, man, like we have a strong Filipino community,
Man,
strong Samoan community,
believe it.
Mexican, black, white.
My grandfather was a short Filipino with two Cadillacs. Zoot suiter for real. You can barely look over the steering wheel, pulling out of the east side. Grandma's from Guadalajara, Mexico. And bring the kids, wanted a better life. Had to go back a few times, making it, and here we are, straight up.
Both of my parents immigrated from Mexico in the in the 70s. They came individually and met here. And so I'm full Mexican. But my wife, military, you know what I mean? She was born in Alaska. Her mom is white. Her dad is her biological father is Puerto Rican and black. So my daughters are Mexican, Puerto Rican, white, and black.
I have other children, not just with my wife. With my previous marriage, my children there are white and Hawaiian, Mexican as well. So it's just Oceanside, Everybody, not to say that just because you're Mexican or solid Samoan or whatever, but this is a melting pot for real.
And I think that's the dope thing too, man, because you integrate the foods, the cultures. Man, I had a lot of friends that were black, Samoan, white, whatever, but they had all been to quinceañeras. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
When my mom made pozole, like they're
Everybody
coming over.
got it.
Like
everybody on the block got pozole.
You just know, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the beautiful part of the city, man. That it's like the integration of cultures.
Yes.
But then we're all Oceanside. And that's its own culture.
Believe that. You know what? I'm Hawaiian, and across the street, Samoans, even though we're Polynesian, they had a different way of what poi was to Hawaiians. So we're kind of like, oh, I like that one, not ours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's cool to see, that Oceanside can give that.
And the Guanamanian community too, man.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, man. How do you feel about that too, bro? Because it's like you also being biracial and navigating the city. It's like when you're here, it almost doesn't feel like it's just like I'm from Oceanside, but it's like that especially from what you see more now. You got so many mixed families. How was that for you navigating the city, like navigating the different cultures?
It's a lot of mixed cultures in Oceanside, and I think that a lot of outside looking in don't get to experience such diversity of culture. You know, in Oceanside is like it's just so many different races that land here, and they grow families, and it's like I'm mixed with a lot, you know. And for me, it's kind of like, to be honest, like for a long time, and I still kind of feel it right now. It's like you feel a little bit like where are you gonna be accepted at in terms of like which background are you gonna pick?
Yeah.
And me doing music and being in the music industry, I kind of feel like the pressure is a little bit on a different level for me, because like I said, people outside looking in, they kind of like are judgmental, and they're very strictly, you know, certain. They want you to be a certain way, you know. And I feel the pressure a lot, you know. From like outside people looking in, you know, they don't understand Oceanside is just like you said, a melting pot of different cultures that come here, and they make families, and you know, I was one of those babies that was mixed, and I think that people gotta come here and experience it themselves to really understand what Oceanside like culture is.
Yeah, man. Even like balancing, that's something that I struggle with, bro. Like growing up as well, like something you said, because even though like both of my parents were from Mexico, like I grew up in a part of TriCity where like there was mixed families, there was black families, there was Samoan families, there was Asian families, there was white families. So everyone that I'm playing football and basketball with on the street is all these different cultures. And you know, also having families that lived in some of the more like predominantly like Mexican communities.
Right.
When they would come in, and I'm like, hey man, we're gonna play football, we're just gonna play with everybody on the street. They would kind of look at me sometimes like, why are you hanging out with so and so? You know what I mean? But it's like, man, like these are my boys.
Yeah.
And navigating that part of it too, like navigating the fact that it's like this is the area of the city that I live in, and I'm hanging out with the people that live on my street, and so it's not a matter of like me picking sides. It was just, I think, but I'm thankful for that, because when I was young, that was something that I always had to walk this line, where I had family from, you know, these different neighborhoods, and I had homies that were from these different neighborhoods, and at times, man, those lines got blurred and they went at it. You know what I mean? But I'm thankful for that opportunity now, because it's always allowed me to see Oceanside for like, man, we're stronger if we're united.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to also understand other cultures. And also, because I was able to understand and spend time with other cultures, I got to see our similarities more than our differences. So that's when I said, when I went to that funeral that was for a Samoan elder, man, I was there, and all I could think is like, man, this reminds me of like being at a funeral for one of the elders in our family. There was, the similarities were so thick. You know what I mean? And so being in Oceanside, experiencing it, because we are different from Vista, we're different from Escondido, we're different from San Marcos
City,
and we're definitely different from Carlsbad. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you're only gonna understand it if you live here.
Gosh.
And it's like that. Even my daughters are gonna be born. I mean, they were born and raised in Oceanside as Mexican, Puerto Rican, black and white, and them having to navigate. But I think for them it might be a little bit easier on how diverse the city is now biracially.
You know, in 82, I think it was because of my cousin's passing, they did a little clipping on the east side and what pozole meant. And you hear a lot of these stuff about maybe the lady who was
pozole.
Pozole. But in that clipping, it was quoted where it was just a stew pot for people that just came to the east side. And I guess that was the first city or the first neighborhood that just welcomed in anything minority.
Yeah, I think if you were a person of color, that's where that's where you had to live, I think.
Right. I mean, you know, Sterling Homes being right there. I remember some of my family living in the Sterling Home Project area right there, and then moving to wherever. But you got blacks, you know, over here, and it's Craft Street, all that is the Usos and the neighborhood. Yeah, so it's a hell of a melting pot, but then it just kind of expanded from there. Here we are, Oceanside.
So, like, even going back, because you're half Polynesian and half Mexican, right? How did your family from Hawaii, how'd they end up in Oceanside? Like, how did that take place?
mom's is a military brat from Hawaii. Mom's is from Hawaii, and I Heights area. And grandfather, they weren't. It's not that they weren't doing so good, but just at a time where my grandfather was building a family with my uncles, which is my Uncle Winston, Uncle Lewis. My mom is the third, and Auntie Trina. They were already born, and I guess in the islands things weren't kind of looking on the up and up. So he joined the military, and right in time for the war, Vietnam. So he's on his way to Vietnam. My family goes to Pennsylvania, my mom and grandma. Things weren't working out there because of racial tension. Who the hell is Hawaiians in Pennsylvania? You know what I'm saying? I mean, grandfather had to go there for some reason, I guess, but he ended up having to leave the family there. And my grandma with 4 kids in the snowy East Coast. They
Coming from Hawaii.
Yeah. So my grandma said, fuck that, and took him back to the island. And when they went back to the island, grandpa came back, got new orders to come to Camp Pendleton. That was in a little bit, I think it's around 72. Could be wrong. I'm going to get some facts, real facts for you later. But the reason why I say that is because my mom had a few years here before meeting my father. And I was piecing the puzzle together, and that's my good research. I get to go and tell this story soon. But from what I've gathered so far, it's cool. It's pretty neat. You know what I'm saying? My mom's from the islands, and my dad is from the east side. It's a simple...
It's like an Oceanside story.
Bro. It's an Oceanside
story,
bro. It's a straight up Hawaiian girl fell in love with a thug. A thug fell in love with a Hawaiian princess. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. Because my mom was a trophy, for real. She came out, you know what I'm saying? And even then, so my mom has a brother, older brother, Lewis, who married a Serta. So... And Serta is an East Side family too, you know what I'm saying? So all of this is all connected, you know what I mean? And if you just keep following the rabbit, it'll take you down that trail.
I think you mentioned that too, man. Like when we talk about the culture of the city, you always mention like the military, how it impacts not just like the diversity, but also like the music, everything, because you got people coming from the South, the East Coast, the islands. We had, obviously a huge influx of the Samoan population, and I think Japanese population at one time, Puerto Ricans, and it becomes like its own melting pot. And I think that's what's so dope about Oceanside, that other cities in North County or other cities just don't experience it unless because of the military base. Being so close to a border and being so close to the second largest military base in the country, you just get all these people that blend.
You're so right, man. Yeah. Oceanside that's what brings the culture of Oceanside. The culture of different, it really is a nation in a nation, because it is where immigrants come to Oceanside or to the States, and they just you know what I mean? They take advantage of what it is. In Oceanside, we have come on, you can't go west than this.
Right.
There's nothing else to conquer. This is the promised land. This is El Dorado. And people are like, what? Okay. And there's a military base, so everybody's looking to retire here. You see a bunch of people that are just from outside, and it looks like they've been here before. I wouldn't want to say that they're brand new, but it looks like, okay, I'm going to raise my family back. And I've heard a few stories that said they went to war, they went across and grabbed their family, and they're coming back. Oh, great, cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, diversity.
So how'd the family end up in TriCity? Because that's where you're from, right? You were born not born, but you were raised in TriCity. So like, how did that?
I was raised in Oceanside, to be honest. TriCity, yes, because that just happened to be a good time where I did all my dirt, all my running and gunning, you know what I mean? But how do we get to Mom's? Actually, Mom's was from the neighborhood. That's where Mom's and Grandma all went to. They didn't go to Sterling Homes. They didn't go on base. They went to TriCity while Grandpa went to work on base. So I guess that was new land. I guess there was a lot of new homes going up at that time. Marvin Street, everything southeast of Oceanside. It was started. So Vista was already starting to get cracking, and the hospital obviously. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
my family right there took advantage of that right there.
I think, man, there's two neighborhoods in Oceanside that I think get sandwiched in between the other larger neighborhoods that a lot of attention doesn't get put on. I think Tri-City's one of them, and the Mid Valley's the other. I think you've done a great job of like bringing out Fireside and talk. And I know they're known amongst people in Oceanside, but like if it's always like this side of town, like downtown, and then you have the Valley. But like then you have the Mid and Tri-City, they're kind of sandwiched in. Then unless you haven't spent time there, it's like you don't really know much about it. But there's so much history there, and I don't know, man. I think that's my perspective. How do you feel about that?
I think that there are locations that get passed through a lot because people want to be at the beach, or some people live in the valley. There are definitely spots where people don't take the time to really go there, and they don't really have. A lot of people don't really have a reason to stop there.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have family there or a reason to be there. But for the most part, man, I think Tri-City in the Mid, I think they have real big stories to be told, and like I feel like I'm in a position to tell it, just like he is right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a time right now.
We
to
took
really...
heat from Tri-City. We took heat, bro. The Mid took heat. Yeah, those are like the neighborhoods, man, that had a show for something, huh?
It's like something to improve, mainly because like they're, like I said, like they're out of the way, and not a lot of people really pay much mind to it, yet alone like really understand it or give it the proper respect that it deserves.
Yeah, and I think that's real, man. Like hearing you talk about Tri-City, for me, it's like I grew up playing at two parks, John Landis Park and Sherborne Park.
All right.
And I know they call it Sepulveda Park, but we always call it Sherborne Park,
yeah.
right? We call those Sherborne apartments.
That's what's up.
And so it's like those are the parks that I grew up playing. But then hearing you talk about like the Fireside Dip, and like if you're familiar with this area, you're just gonna know.
Yeah.
And I think people from the Mid, they love to hear that, even when you talk about the Timber apartments and all that, because they can change the names, but people still call it the Timbers. They can change Sherborne apartment names. I just call it Sherborne apartments, And so I think that's dope, man.
Yeah, I think it's like Sunterra or something.
Yeah, right.
But like they've changed the names to all these apartments, and I have a feeling that it's mainly because of like the history of it, Also changing the name gives it like a whole new perspective, remodeling. A lot of things are being remodeled, in the Valley, Tri-City. Like a lot of things are changing, bro, and it's a lot. It's different.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because I know like you went away for some time, come home, and then you see the city changing. What's your perspective on that?
It kills me in ways. It does. It's just pushing our residents out, the ones who give it the history. Like you were saying, just even for somebody to corner the Mid Valley, why does it have to be somebody, that's got to do it through rap? There's so many of us, who got different ways of taking on, different parts of the neighborhood. Capistrano, it's a big part too of Oceanside.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way the construction is, I was really blown away with the construction and tourists, and that brings in, you see, I want to give them some love. I want to, give them the benefit of the doubt that, you can welcome, this is Oceanside love, you can be welcome, but act accordingly.
Yeah. What's that mean?
I mean, just give it that Oceanside love and be courteous. We got the Polynesian, we got a lot of diverse, cultures here. And we all have a common rule, and that's that respect. Give that fee, give the courtesy. Military does open up brand new people to not understand how our code is.
Yeah.
And it's a code in Oceanside. We do take on and understand somewhat of, the Japanese, the Filipinos, people who are here for, just on a summer break, it makes it harder because for instance, I've seen a few times going down there to the coast and seeing our people's work and how they're just getting shitted on, and I'm like, gosh, trying to understand, are they not understanding, that, hey, you got to be courteous, or are you just really shit asshole about things? And
yeah, Oceanside is definitely developing, and I think that it's bringing in more money to the city, but I also think that it's moving a lot of people out because of like the price of living. It's like going up, and I think it's something that we kind of have to adapt to because it's not going to change. It's going to keep changing.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
That's exactly where it's got to go. We got to adopt.
I kind of, from what I've seen, man, is that I see a lot of folks that usually would live on this side of town moving closer to the mid now. You have people that wouldn't historically live in the mid, living in the mid. And
gentrification.
And people that wouldn't live in TriCity now moving to TriCity. When I was a kid, man, I was born in the 80s. I knew John Landis to be, I knew whose turf John Landis Park belonged to. And then late 90s, I saw the transition to somebody else's.
Yeah.
And late 2000s now, because now you got people that historically would live on this side of Oceanside, and kids not really or people not affiliated to a specific neighborhood now creating their own, and trying to for that John Landis Park, right? And I always look at it kind of from a perspective where it's like, it's not so much like a gang thing, man. It's like, if you don't focus on the root causes that's in that area, when we talk about the poverty and the school systems, like you can always remove a gang, right? They can put a lot of money towards the police department, put a gang suppression, you got gang enhancements and injunctions and all that, and you can possibly, lock people up for a certain amount of time. But if you don't focus on the root causes, the kids in that neighborhood are just going to grow up and start their own thing. And I've used John Landis as an example when I'm talking about that, because I was like, man, I've seen that park go to like 4 different neighborhoods, but they keep focusing on just like the surface level and not focusing on the root. I was like, man, if you don't focus on the root, I say it's kind of like when you have mold in the house, right? If we have mold on the floor or whatever, and you see the mold and you come up and you clean it off, well, if you don't focus on the leak, you know what I'm saying? If that pipe's leaking, that mold's gonna build back up, and there's gonna, you're gonna see it again. And I think that's what you've seen in that area, where it's like they put money towards suppression and locking people up, but they don't focus on the neighborhood. And me being from TriCity, like, I've just seen different, new black and brown poor kids come up, started their own crew.
Don't you get upset about that rec center not being available?
Yeah, big time.
It's been there for the last 20 years without anybody.
Yeah, it used to be a youth program.
Yeah, I went to church in that thing.
Yeah,
I went to church. I done after school programs there.
Yeah.
There was ramps there. I mean, I've done everything in that park.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about like the neighborhoods that gone through transition, my mom even called it Thunderhills.
Yeah.
So I was like hearing my mom, like, she even said, yeah, this is Thunderhills. I'm like, Mom, well, she's from TriCity,
right,
and that's what they called it in, the early 60s, Thunderhills, because of the hills.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden more polys came in. And this is it's a touchy subject, but Oceanside and its gangs are even separated by race.
Yeah.
Let's not play around. It is what it is. You got colors of, that are predominantly black as Crips. Polys are Bloods. Not everyone is, though, but it kind of sets that mode, sets that environment. And in Oceanside, TriCity, we're just going to adopt the Bloods, But my mom, she wasn't affiliated with none. It's just the neighborhood, So then you got the Thunderhill Cats that come in, Those guys are, hell, we went at it with them, and it was tough.
But it's also understanding. I think if you don't lived in TriCity, you don't understand that it's like you got this side of the 78, where Thunder and Tiburon is, and then you got the other side of the 78, and then you got one side of College where Marvin extends towards Sherborne Apartments, and then you got Marvin that goes to John Land, the 7-Eleven.
Bro, it was so tough that Vista Homeboys wanted the neighborhood. Posole wanted Marvin Street. Everybody wanted that Tri-City pot.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a secluded, nice little neighborhood. We got a hospital. We got, you know, DMV across the street, the freeway, 7-Eleven running right through it, a park. You know, it was our neighborhood. We can get injured and go right there, you know. But I think it just came down to the. It's a cool neighborhood.
I think part of it too, man. When I started seeing some of the other neighborhoods trying to come in, I felt like that was part of that was a reaction to the gang injunctions, right? So they put gang injunctions on certain parts of Vista. They put gang injunctions on certain parts of Oceanside. So if you can't hang out at that park, what park doesn't have a gang injunction? You know, John Landis didn't, and I felt like that's why you started seeing more of the Vista. You know, you started seeing Vista come in more into John Landis, because you got a lot of people who really don't know what city they know what city they live in, but their identification, right? Because if you live on that side of College, if you live east of College, you're going to Vista schools. You're not going to Oceanside schools. Even though you live in Oceanside, you're going to Rancho, you're going to Washington, you're going to, you know, you're going to go to a Vista school, but you live in Oceanside. And if you live on the other side of Tri-City, then you're going to go to Oceanside schools, but you're still in Tri-City. And if you live by the DMV, you're going to Carlsbad schools. You know what I mean? So then people kind of, because
it was so, it was, just as you explained, that's just how much people wanted it, you know what I mean, wanted Tri-City. You know, they wanted to live there because of, like, you know, oh, let's go to Oceanside. We can go to Oceanside School District, but, you know, be over here on this side of town. Because Oceanside, East Side is bad neighborhood. The Valley's bad. Let's go over here to Tri-City. And that's what a lot of families, you know, took into account, because the rest of Oceanside was, you know, going through its street politics.
Yeah.
And it was, and that's about right, you know. There was a lot of things happening in Tri-City, but the focus was more on Oceanside.
Right.
You know, and what happened under that is drugs came in and tore up everything on every corner.
What
of
year?
Tri-City.
Or like what?
Bro, oh my God, this was around like 1990. So Tri-City was more of like a happening, jumping scene. We have people from Rancho. It's more parties over there. You know, you got a lot of white people that do a lot of weed and LSD, all of them kind of hippie drugs. You have, like you said, Carlsbad. You have different kinds of people there. And at that time, everybody bring drugs to the party. And then Vista had heroin. And that would also come in to Tri-City. So you can get from shrooms to heroin, crack, speed, anything. Where in Oceanside, you can find weed and crack cocaine predominantly.
This is in the late 80s.
This is about like late 80s into the 90s. There was just so much weed in Tri-City. So much weed coming from, like, you know, the Vista Hills, Fallbrook. So we kind of took on this boundary of Oceanside that accepted things that were coming west. Do you understand? People weren't quite making it all the way into Oceanside. They stopped in Tri-City, and we connected with them. We did. We connected with the essays from Vista because we are like the drugs that they had, heroin and weed. We like dealing with, you know, people from Carlsbad because they had weed and speed. You know what I mean? So we got to choose on, I hate to say that we choose, but each one of us in this party scene, we wanted to bring to the table, oh, I got my homie, he got some shrooms, we'll bring him in, let's do this. So that's where you see now there's a methadone clinic. There's nothing safe there. There's needles at the park. It's just not a fun zone. So everywhere you see in Tri-City, there's a tweaker hanging on the corner. I mean, things are really run down over there.
I feel like it's neglected because, you know, the schools are all one Tri-City. The actual schools in there are Vista Unified.
Right.
So like Vista will look at it like, well, that's Oceanside. They need to deal with it. And then Oceanside, I've been in conversations, man, where it's like the school district and the city, and they're talking about like, oh, we gotta do a better job of improving the programs at these parks, right? And so they always name the main parks, Balderrama, Libby, you know, the main areas and the elementary schools near them. And I'm like, what about John Landis?
Right.
You know what I mean? And the schools there. But a lot of times it's like it's out of sight, out of mind. But it's also like, well, that's Vista Unified,
Right.
right? But it's like, but that's
Yeah.
Oceanside,
Right.
and so what you see is this level of neglect, where it's like, it's still Oceanside, but it's Vista Unified or it's Carlsbad Unified, and Carlsbad ain't gonna care about that community.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they don't look at it like they just want the students to go to Sage Creek, the high school or whatever, but they don't care about anyone who lives off of Thunder. You know what I mean? And so, and it's so close to Vista. I think you mentioned it too. So like, you're not only dealing with OPD, you might have to deal with the sheriffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you probably have to deal with GSU from the sheriffs because, you know, it's like you cross the street, you're in Vista. You know, and then you cross Emerald, you're back in Oceanside.
Yeah. So you see a lot of vice, you know what I'm saying? You see a lot of it's just what happened, you know, even when you're saying, excuse me, about the school districts, even where Palomar College.
Yeah, that's College Boulevard.
Yeah.
Maricosta can't go into
Maricosta. So you even got college campuses that flock to Tri-City.
Yeah.
You know, this wasn't, you know, they didn't go to the Oceanside, deep Oceanside. The party scene, man, was through the 90s. And the word around town is don't bring Tri-City to the party. Don't bring the Bloods. Don't bring the Samoans. Don't bring those guys over there from the hardcore parts of Tri-City. But we were there, and that's how our side of town was. We're into the parties and kicking it. We were so deep. We had a lot of us, so we were young and just coming out of middle school, going into high school. So here we are.
What year? I mean, to go into that, man. Like, what year did you get put on? Like, jumped in and all that.
91 I was put on.
You were like 16, 15?
15. I was 15 years old. I knew it was going to come. I'd be walking through the park, and I knew all the big homies, you know what I'm saying? Because we lived in the neighborhood. And we were just a posse, me and about 40 other boys from middle school. A few of us just kind of, you know, went our separate ways, but about 7, 8 of us followed the gang. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy, man, that you say that, because I know you've seen this, man, and I see it now because I work with youth on juvenile probation, that you always have these little cliques that come up. You know what I mean? Like, everyone goes through it. No matter what era you came up in Oceanside, there was always this clique, and everyone talk about this clique. But what you see is, like, out of that clique, no matter how deep they are, there's probably only like 4 or 5 that are really with it. And what ends up happening is that wherever that clique is, you know, closest to, the neighborhood, the real neighborhood, closest to that clique is just going to come over and be like, look, man, y'all going to knock that off.
Yeah.
And this is what it's going to be. And then the ones that it's not a fad, they'll join the neighborhood. Yeah. And then the rest of them will kind of just like back it up, or it is what it is. Eventually, just, you know, that they move on. But I've seen that happen. I'm sure there was a lot of cliques when you were coming up that maybe 2 or 3 of them actually got put on, and the rest of them kind of just went on.
I feel like for me, I was in one of those cliques. Yeah. And for me, it was kind of like I was like in the borderline of like doing my own thing and also trying to be like a name, you know. But for me, it was always like I think that I to be honest, like I kept my distance a lot, you know. I hung around, but at the same time, for me, it was like I still did what I had to do in my best interest, you know. So for me, there was a lot of cliques growing up, and there was a lot of people like going to Jefferson that like I seen like kicking it with like certain neighborhoods, but they weren't a part of it, you know. You got those people that kick it with the neighborhood, but they're not like really like they haven't been jumped in, you know. And growing up, like I see some of those people doing good, and you know they have families now, and then I see some of those people, you know, in jail, or you know they passed away. So I always look at it like as like an experience of like learning, and it's a big like grew my characteristic and gave me something to write about. And that's majority of my music. That's what I write about, like being that kid that was like caught in between, you know, like I didn't fully dedicate myself, but at the same time I was like doing things that were active, but I never took it like too far, you know. So my music is all based behind like being that kid. So I got to like live in like it was almost like two worlds, you know?
I think that's the Oceanside story too. For almost like especially if you're like a male of color, man, that you experience that where it's like you don't look at it like that's so and so from here. It's like, man, I known that dude since kindergarten.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or I remember when we both decided, man, I'm cool, and they took it. You know, I'm gonna push that line. And you see that, and I think you telling that story too is powerful, man, because I think from us being from Oceanside, we see that, and we can put ourselves in that shoes, or we know where that happened, you know?
Yeah, because growing up in Oceanside, it's like you have to be around somebody or a group of somebodies that are from a neighborhood, you know? It's like hard not to grow up in Oceanside and not be around it.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people connect with that whole, you know, being caught in between.
Yeah, it's true.
And wherever you're at, you know what I mean? So if you're in TriCity, you're going to probably know people from Vista. You're going to know people from KCB. You're going to know people from Thunderhill. You're going to know people from probably DVBs too, and some of the Crip gangs. And because people from TriCity had people from those areas all in that mix. And if you're in the mid, you're going to know people from certain neighborhoods. Like that's just how it is. But it's like in reality, man, it's love. You know what I mean? Because you get to know the individuals, especially in areas like the mid and TriCity where it's not predominantly really nothing. You know, at least it wasn't. I think when we were growing up, it was a lot more diverse. So there were a strong Polynesian population, there's a strong African American population, there's a strong Mexican population, white people. You know what I mean? And so you get to build these relationships with people not based on like where they're from, but it was just more like, man, do our personalities align? Do our commonalities align? Or if you play ball, you know what I mean? You're playing two-hand touch on the street, or you're playing at John Landis, you're playing at Fireside, you're just playing ball, you're just kicking it.
Yeah.
And you build those relationships. And I thought that was unique about growing up in TriCity. And I feel like at least from my perspective about the mid, that it's like you see Oceanside in it as far as the diversity, because it's not predominantly one race. At least in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't. It was a lot more diverse. You go John Landis Park, you go Sherborne Park, you're going to see Simone's hanging out on the bench. You know what I mean? You're going to be playing basketball, you're going to be playing park. And then they have the baseball field, and you got people playing baseball right there. Same thing at John Landis. And I know Fireside, when I drive by there, it's still very diverse.
Yeah, but for me, I think, like, around the time that I grew up around Fireside, it was like, there was like a lot of like Polynesian families there. On I guess you would say, what is that, the south side of the park, or the left side of the park was like Polys, and then the other side of the park was like apartment homes, which had a lot of like, you know, African Americans.
A lot of military too.
Yeah. So it was kind of like you get these people and these people that go to the same park, so you see them, you know, like I'll just tell you a story. Like, I went to the park one time, me and my brother, and you know, we got into a scuffle with these dudes that were from the other side of the park. But at the same time, one of my close homies that I grew up with was there, and he couldn't really even like jump in or do anything. And it was because he grew up in the apartments where those people lived. And it was kind of like crossed in between, because we were at the park all the time and we play all the time, you know, we were kids. So when that whole scuffle went down, it was kind of like I seen my homeboy there, and for me, I didn't have no like anger toward him, you know. I kind of understood that like we're kids and we all go to this park to have fun, and sometimes you get caught in between, you know. And I seen him, you know, when the whole scuffle was going down, I seen him. I could see his eyes, like he was kind of like, like, what do I do, you know? Like it's just a weird thing, like being in Oceanside and being around different ethnicities that like you kind of feel like almost tied to if you're around them, you know. And that's kind of how I felt, really, to be honest.
How'd you navigate that, man? Being half Polynesian, half Mexican, having family from the east side.
Let's go through it. Let's really check it out. Like in the mid, you got Mid Valley Crooks, ICG fighting over that. Fireside Park.
Over the park.
DVC, DVB, that whole valley. TriCity, Crook City, TriCity Crooks, Thunderhills, West Side, Center Street, West Side Crip, Pozole, CMG. So every neighborhood had their, you know what I mean, their ethnicity running the gang. You know what I'm saying? And South O, and even South O Posse and what are the white boys down there? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The white boy surfers, South O surfers, you know what I mean? Them guys is about it too. So it was challenging in all parts of neighborhoods in Oceanside. I remember I got asked to be put on Pozole, and I was in TriCity because Pozole was in TriCity. A family lived there, and I mean their neighborhood obviously is in on the east. But they asked me, "We'll put you on right here. We can make you Pozole at TriCity or some funny shit like that." And I don't know about that. I was already hanging with the poly community because of being Hawaiian. You know what I'm saying?
So your dad grew up on the east side.
Yeah, but I'm living in TriCity. So my mom is on Marvin, across the street. This is Marvin block. This is the heart of the hood. Okay, 4100 block. The Tupuelas live across the street. This is all of us, you know what I'm saying? This is where, you know what I mean, it was hard to get in, hard to get out. And we lived on this block with about maybe 7 other different Polynesian families at this time, including other races like Japanese, Mexican. So this block was family, everybody right here. And this is where I grew up on. Seeing the big homie Red Run, rest in peace. They was throwing the ball around with a red rag. I'm like, okay, this is what we do. We carry the red rag around here. All right. Then I started finding out what the rags are about. When I see my dad, this is how you put on a rag. He wasn't trying to make me no gangster or anything, but I had a rag, and he goes, "This is how they do it on the east side." My dad didn't bang. He took it far though. He got into his own shit. You know what I'm saying? He made it to juvenile hall, Campo, even escaped from that joint. You know what I'm saying? But my mom changed his life. And so when I was growing up, I seen my dad and all of my family's Pozole, and we're big over here. On my mom's side was brought up more culturally. I was known about the politics of Hawaiian people, of the community. On the east side, it was just streets of gang banging, and grandma cooked pozole, and we had tamales on Christmas, a lot of cousins. But that's a lot of travel, so home is TriCity. And growing up with, the Polynesians around here, that's what we just, gravitated to. Whatever color it was, it didn't have a color. Whatever it was, this is where my mom associated with other Polynesian community people. Other polys. So grandma's same way. Okay. Hey, that's auntie. That's okay. All of these Polynesians are auntie and uncles. Back in the days, it was like, the Hatcher family, from TriCity. Those are, got some old families right there that were Polynesian community, big families back there. That's my family. So these are my mom's peoples when they found the Polynesian community, the Hawaiian community around TriCity area. All of these people started gathering in. And then, your aunties, you bang the red rag? Oh, okay. I want to bang a red rag too. So that's how that came about. And there was a lot more pride in it. There's a lot more than just wearing the red rag, because I felt something. I felt a lot of, I just felt, I don't know how to explain it, but being a blood was a culture. It really is. A Polynesian, Hawaiian, coming from, our side of the city, TriCity, growing up with a bunch of other Polynesian bloods. We weren't the only ones. That's what we got to find out later on. Oh, there's Samoan Bloods from SB. Oh, SOS means Sons of Samoan Crips. Oh, and then that's when I started finding out the history of the gang. And I was like, yeah, Crook City. Yeah, okay. That's good for me to line up right there with. Didn't know how I was going to do it. Didn't know where it was going to come in or anything like that. But it's like you put out music enough, you're going to get heard. And that's what happened. I made enough noise where people all around kind of just, who's over there making noise? And that's when A-Red says, bring them to the park. We'll put them on. And that's it. That's how I felt.
Man, I think even
forgive me for spilling all that. God,
it just puts me in perspective, man. Because we used to have all our family parties at John. Well, a lot of them at John Linus Park. So we would have on those benches right there. Before now, where the skate park is, but you know, I mean, we would always have those benches, and most of my family. It's crazy, man, because like I had the opportunity to participate and go to one of my close friends. His dad passed away a couple months ago, and they had his funeral at one of the Samoan churches. And when I was there, I just saw so many similarities between going to like a historical like Mexican funeral, where it's like, I mean, the majority of the funeral they were speaking in Samoan, but it's just like as far as the culture and the family and the unity and people coming in, it just reminded me of going to like a funeral for someone like my uncle or like someone older in my family that's passed away, and you see how close the families are. Yeah. And for me, I remember just being there and being like, man, we have so much in common. And also coming in as immigrants as well. You know, even though if it's the military that's bringing, you're still coming into a new country, a new place where it's a lot different from home.
Technically, I'm a first generation American on my dad's side. To be truthfully honest, I mean, you know, Oceanside isn't that old.
No, yeah.
It's really not. But then again, you know. I guess it is, maybe. Yeah. You know, for my family to say that we were here just when things were developing, you know, it's pretty cool to call this place home.
Yeah, and I saw that, man. Like in TriCity, I remember just walking down Marvin. You know what I mean? Or walking up Marvin to go to don't matter what park, but and seeing you had a Mexican household, Samoan household, Mexican household. Samoan household. Like that's what it was going up the street. Everyone in the garage. Yeah. You know, or hanging out on the green boxes.
You know what? That's a good thing right there, because it seems like, you know, why can't that be possible where both cultures blend really peacefully here in Oceanside? And that's what I hope to see within the neighborhoods. That it's just what's going to happen. You pointed it out as far as like, you know, new migration, new people come in, and obviously some neighborhoods just fade. I hate to say it in ways, TriCity in a way, yeah, it's being taken over and by predominantly Mexican families. So will it change into a gang? Maybe, maybe not. But the families that are, you know, long time been around, like on the east side or some in the mid, Deep Valley, you know, you got Bloods and Crip families. You know, I think it's hard. It's hard to say, because in other cities, you got Blood or Crip gangs. They share the neighborhood with SAs. I mean, they cool with it. Some, not all, but, you know, if you go to some cities, you know, some sets in San Diego, they all share with a Mexican neighborhood. Some in LA, most likely in every single corner in South Central or South LA has the same situation. We just happen to not accept it. We happen to keep that boundary separated, or let it be known that, oh, we're Bloods, we're Polynesians, so everybody got to be a Blood. And I think that's becoming a stereotype now. Yeah. You know,
I think the more that you speak up and the more that we even do things together, the more that it shows, man, we got more in common. Because I love what you said when we first started, man, because I said, oh, you grew up in TriCity. You're like, man, I grew up in Oceanside. And that's something I love about what you're doing, man, because you're so big on, like, I'm going to highlight the city. Like, yeah, you talk about the mid because that's where you're from, but or that's where you grew up. But, like, man, you do a great job of, like, whenever you have the opportunity to talk about Oceanside in its entirety, man, you do a great job of that. And it's like you're telling our story. Through your music. But why is that so important? Because I think you've seen the unity from the very beginning.
Yeah, so like for me, I've like I told you before, I never really got too deep into, you know, like choosing a side. So I got to get like the best of almost like all worlds of each section of Oceanside, mainly because I went to San Luis Rey, then I went to Jefferson, and then I went to Oceanside High, and I got to interact with all these different neighborhoods. But for me, like, I always had the mindset that like I started doing music really young. I started doing music when I was in middle school, but around the time I started doing music, I kind of like was like leeching away from like the people I was kicking it with, and to be honest, it was a little bit of an issue, bro. It was a little bit of an issue, like at first, like sure, it was an issue
because they were looking at you're trying to do music now. So
it was kind of like, why are you living like over here, but you're making noise for yourself when you should be making noise for us? It was an issue, bro. It was an issue. Like I got into some trouble.
A lot of us were held back because of you. I mean, doing situations like that. And or you're making some money, you're making music, and you're gonna leave us. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, Jay. So it was an issue, bro. So for me, I just kept it, man. Like now, like there's no turning back. Like I really cannot choose a side now because I'm already too far gone from them. So it was just like I'm just gonna be all about Oceanside, you know, and then going to all these different schools. It was kind of like, man, like I grew close from with people from the East Side, from Center Street, you know, and I just was a people's person, bro, and I just wanted to represent for Oceanside, and I had loved ones from all different neighborhoods, and you know I loved them equally, you know, and for me it was kind of like Oceanside is like an untold story that like these surrounding cities I feel like don't really get to see, you know. All they do, they come to the beach, you know, and then they go back to their city. They don't really get to go into the different neighborhoods and be like, oh, this is what's going on over here, what's going on over here. So I get to kind of do that with the music, you know.
And that's the history of it, man. I think I always tell people, man, it's a big difference from growing up here and also, you know, coming here later on as an adult and living here for 20, 30 years. Because if you grow up here, you're going to have that experience of going to San Luis Rey, going to Jefferson, going to Oceanside. Like living in Tri-City, I went to Lincoln, you know, which had me build relationships with everybody in downtown, and I'm hanging out now in Nevada and Clementine, you know what I mean? But then because I lived in Tri-City, now I went to El Camino. So now I'm in the Deep Valley, hanging out with my friends in the Valley. So it's like I got to experience these different areas. But like if you come here later on as an adult, I mean, it's love, but you're not going to experience Oceanside the same way. Because you're not going to have, you know, friends from these different areas. But I think you said something that's super dope, bro, that you said that, like, you got a lot of pushback. Not that you got pushback, that was dope, but that you got a lot of pushback when you decided to pursue your dream. Like, what was it that nothing was going to stop you from pursuing your dream? Because you still had to live there.
Yeah, no, it was more so like, man, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I had a big drive to do music. You know, even before I met MadStrange and the team, man, I was literally, like, recording myself and putting it on CD, and I literally was on the streets, bro, selling my shit like on the streets, and that really built character, bro, and it really made me like my heart, like it made it like a little bit tough because, you know, I was used to rejection. I was used to people being like, oh no, I don't fuck with your shit, like I don't even know you. So like I was already used to like people saying no. How
old were you?
I was about like 14. I started rapping when I was 13. But I started putting it on a hard disk, man. You know, nowadays that's old school, man. But you know, at my time though, it was just like
and buying them yourself.
Like it was just starting. People were just making starting to make hard discs. But now you don't hear of that, you know. Right. So I got the pleasure, bro. Like when I started like making music, I got the pleasure of like feeling that feeling of like, damn, like I have to physically go out there and interact with people instead of just putting it out online and random people just hear it, you know. So I like that really built my character. And then, like, right in the nick of time, bro, I met MadStrange, you know, and they took it to a different level. And I know I'm going off topic, but for the most part, like, the thing that drove me to keep going even when people were doubting me was the fact that like I was already used to being like said no to, you know, from just like selling physical copies. And you know, hearing people that I grew up with that like I had so much influence and my music had so much influence tell me that we don't like what you're doing was a big thing for me, you know. And I was hurt for a little bit, bro. I'll tell you the truth, I was hurt for a little bit, but you know, like those are things that like I don't even really talk about, you know. But for the most part, man, I'm here and I'm glad that I stuck with it, you know, because I have a lot to prove and I have a lot to say for the most part.
And it's crazy that you had that, like, at that time, and people were probably looking at you like you were, like, crazy. But you were crazy enough to believe in yourself.
Yeah, it was a weird time, man. It was a weird time.
And were you solo Bology, just you?
For the most part with the music? Yeah, it was just me, man. It was just me. And to tell you the truth, like, I was a little bit lost, you know? I was a little bit lost. And I just knew that I wanted to do music. And the first song I ever did, bro, like, I did it, I think I was 6th grade at Jefferson. And I did it it was like some blood dude. He was from somewhere in Southeast, Dago. But he lived in Vista. And I went to his house, you know, and I recorded my first record in his bedroom. And after that day, bro, like, I couldn't get enough of it, like, recording. It just was, like, it was a good release for me. And I think that, like, writing was, like, a really strong point for me, you know. I was okay at sports, this, but writing, I was, like I was like, that was the best part of, like, my talent.
When did you start telling people that you were rapping? Because I know a lot of people I've heard say that, like, man, I started doing it by myself, and I didn't really tell nobody until like a certain
well period. To tell you the truth, like my older homies, like, you know, like Soulja Boy and his older brother and his family, like, they were already making music out of the neighborhood, you know. And it wasn't just like my neighborhood fucking with it. It was like all these other neighborhoods knew their music, you know. And it was that kind of gave me the push to where it was like, oh man, I could do it too, you know. Because if everybody's accepting these guys' music, then, you know, they'll accept my music too. And I started like going on that journey of like trying to be heard, you know. And people didn't take me serious at first, you know. Like, some people were buying my shit, you know. And I think in high school was when people really, like, when I was a senior, I stopped playing. I was a junior and I stopped playing football because of an injury. And that's when I, like, bro, like, that injury was like the best thing of my life, because I got to take music serious, bro, and just focus on that, you know. The jocks, they get treated like royalty in high school. So for me, it was kind of like, damn, like, I'm not a part of that no more. Like, how am I gonna find my own lane? So I started doing music.
It's a high school where it's a football school, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like,
so for me, it was kind of like, man, like, I don't care, I'm gonna say it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't a jock, but look at me now, you know.
Yeah.
And I think
Ain't that something about Oceanside? I mean, you know, we do got love for the city, but once you start making it, we gotta check you to see if you're doing
crazy,
it right.
Man. It's crazy,
you know what I'm saying?
Man.
But I'm gonna be real, man. You doing the thing for you, not picking the side that not that you had to or whatever, but you staying that, man. You opened up so much avenues for you, man. And you giving the Oceanside a good light, not just a Crip point of view or a blood point of view. You're giving it that Oceanside light.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you. And I think that my best advice to even artists coming up is that like choosing a section and just rapping that section is gonna be a lot harder than just making it like as a city as a whole. Like, you know, like, I don't know what it was like that in terms of like got into me, but like I knew what I had to talk about and what boundaries I couldn't cross when I'm rapping on the microphone, because people will listen.
Yeah.
People are gonna hear what you're saying. Oh, you talking about such and such? I'm gonna come check you. You know.
Yeah.
So for me, I was on a thin line, bro, because a lot of people started listening to picking up my music, and even today, people were like, "Man, who the fuck is this fool?" Like, oh, sorry.
Man, you clever though, bro. I mean, I can honestly, you know, your style is, man, it's cleverly done. It's not something that you quite hear all the time.
Right.
You know, it's got its own vibe, and that's uniquely you. And man, it is Oceanside too.
Yeah,
so
man.
Yeah, man, it took a lot of like juggling and figuring out. For the most part, I was like recording myself, so I had all the time in the world to figure out, you know, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to be about, and the image more so, you know. And then you know, like, I think I was like 20. I think I was 20 when I linked up with MadStrange, and they took me to a whole nother level.
Man, I think, and you said, man, it's crazy, but that is the truth, man. Once you start making moves it's almost like the city itself, at times, we can be our own worst enemy. You know what I mean? Because it's like the city has these walls, and if you grow up here, like, they're very real. But people that come here don't understand the walls. Don't understand the walls on Mission Avenue. Don't understand the walls on North River Road. Don't understand the walls that we see growing up here, and those barriers that we have. And then you have to be careful. You got to walk this line. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to upset this person. I don't want to upset that person. I have these relationships, but I got to walk this line. And that's tough to do, man, especially someone with your platform.
Yeah, no, I've been on a thin line since I started making music, man. Since I started. Because before, all of Oceanside been listening to me. Like, certain people from where I grew up were listening to me. And they were trying to, like, figure out, you know, what is he talking about, you know? Because, you know, like I said, man, I was kind of leeching away from them. So they're like, oh, is he still talking about, you know, this type of shit? Because that's what we're about, you know? And we know him. He's not hanging around with us no more. So it was a thin line for me. Yeah. It was a thin line for sure.
Yeah, man. What do you think about that, man, as far as, like, Oceanside being its own worst? Like, at times, I mean, I'm sure it's like that in other cities too, but I think for us, you know, I see that at times. And I think it's important for folks, like, with your platform now, to show that we can, you know, transcend past that.
Yeah, you know, that's a hard question. I can't say, you know, I wish I can have the right one. Oceanside is just its own spirit. It really is. You can see an Oceansider regardless of what color or age. I don't know, you know. For instance, I'm at the Fish and Chips Harbor today, and I seen little girls, you know, talking at the ice cream parlor, and I'm looking, I'm like, those are just Oceanside girls, you know, and you just knew that they were just part of the city, you know. So how they look at me, or look at you, or how we all look at each other, I think that's just a taboo kind of thing that we keep under. Saying, like, you know, I'm Oceanside, stronger than you. Yeah. I'm Oceanside, I'm better Oceanside than you. I think that's a real ego trip.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can deliver Oceanside better than you, you know. And then that's, you know, that can get in the way a lot of the time. Instead of letting the homie just ride the, you know what I mean, ride the train, let him do his thing and be like, man, take over regardless of, well, not regardless, but what is the message? And you got a pretty good, solid message. Some messages, if they're just talking about rah-rah the streets, that shit don't attract me on me. You know, give me something new. But to answer your question, we are our worst enemy, you know. That's what it is. We do take pride in this Southern California, Oceanside. Not just San Diego, but Oceanside.
Yeah. No, man, but I like I said, man, I'm to hear that, bro, because I think that's the message that I think a lot of people need to hear at times too. That sometimes your closest circle or the people closest to you, it's crazy that they'll be the last at times to champion your dreams. Yeah. And they can have the biggest impact on your dream with the people that you're closest to who don't believe in you. Sometimes you almost got to protect your dreams from the people closest to you. You know what I mean?
That's what held us back in ways, man. We had a lot of us. I mean, the East Side, man, in the early 90s had the Big East House, and there was a lot of music pushing out of there. You know what I'm saying? Jack Nass, you know, Chips and Guacamole, Risky Businesses, Projects. All of these came from the East Side. Even West Side had every set had their thing, you know. But there was always just a little bit of us I don't want to say sabotage, but are you going Hollywood now? And that was a code that we didn't want to break. We didn't want to be known to go Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? We were like, all right, you're right. But then all of a sudden you start seeing, you know, Snoop and all these guys from, you know, all up in there. And we're like, man, we're right on time. We're making the same music right around the same time they're doing it. Why aren't we ahead in this game? Why aren't we pushing forward? And it's because of that. It's because of that, like, you know, oh, I'm going to be the first one. I got a better Oceanside to tell. Instead of everybody being on the same page. Sad but true.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I feel like a lot of people out here, they feel like, oh, I could represent Oceanside better than you, you know? And to be honest, it's like, you know, you got to prove it. You know, you got to prove it. You got to prove it. And it's more than just representing. It's like work ethic plus representing plus, like, keeping that integrity, because as you get bigger, you're not going to rap about the same things, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Things change. Your mindset change.
How do you feel about that? What he said, as far as like people, you get to a certain point where people are like, oh, you're going Hollywood.
No, like I feel that, like, especially right now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think that, you know, that I feel like I'm too good or this and that, but the reality is, like, I work hard for this, you know, and I'm still like keeping as much in touch with Oceanside as I can, you know. I'm still, like, you know, going to different neighborhoods and, you know, and keeping that connection that with those certain people that you know, that influenced my music and built the characteristics that I have. But for the most part, man, like, that whole Hollywood thing is just what's in your head, you know? Like, if they see me as a Hollywood person, they can either see me as, like, somebody that's going to Hollywood, or they can see me as somebody that's successfully living out their dream, you know?
Yeah, and it's just that perspective. And I think that's huge, man. Like, we should, especially us, you know, who lived here for a long time, we should, you know, set that standard of looking at other people when they're achieving whatever it is that they're achieving.
And now we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. We're playing the, you know, and that's just what's the industries, you know, that's the streets.
Yeah.
We're playing catch up compared to, you know, the cities next to us. We're on this, you know, platform of San Diego, of, you know, biggest music production coming out for what, everything worldwide, and we're just a few miles. Yeah. And we're not getting a piece of this. It's because we're stubborn Oceansiders.
And I think that's something that makes the city unique too, man.
Yeah, see, that's like, what I'm saying, though.
Because we're sandwiched in. I mean, I know we're San Diego County, but we're sandwiched in between San Diego and Los Angeles.
Man, we don't want to be known as L.A. or San Diego. We're Oceanside.
That's what I'm talking about.
We are. When we go to when we go to the places, where you from? San Diego. Oceanside. You know what I'm saying? We got to let that be known. And for us right now, playing catch up on this music and stuff, I love playing my guitar, and I play the shit out of it. And I make sure that people see that that's what Oceanside gets to bring to the table, is more of different diversities, you know what I'm saying? Different ways of bringing entertainment, music. And it's cool, you know what I'm saying? It's really actually on time, but it's underground on time in ways.
But yeah, man, I think about, man, when I dropped out of high school, and then I remember I wanted to go back. I got my GED, and I wanted to enroll at Maricosta. You know, I used to, man, we've lived walking distance from Maricosta, but mentally I felt like it was in another world.
It is.
You know what I mean? Physically, I can walk to the school, and I've seen it on the 302, whatever, like, but it just felt like it was in another world, man. And I remember I decided to go back, and they told me, like, oh, you're going to have to start at pre-algebra. And I was 20 years old, and I remember, like, the people closest to me were like, oh, man, you better take them dummy classes. You know what I mean? Like, they were kind of knocking, like, yeah. And at that time, I was like, man, like, but I'm going back.
You're right.
You know what I mean? I was like, it might be dummy to you, man, but I've never done this. You know what I mean? And so it was like, I stopped really going to school, like, in 7th grade. And so it's like, when they're teaching pre-algebra, I didn't learn it in 8th grade. But I say that, man, where it's like I had to start protecting my dreams from a lot of people, because I was like, if I'm not ready, I'm not strong enough yet to share my dreams with you. Yeah. Because you may not accept my dream, or you may knock my dream, and I'm not strong enough yet to share it with you, where I can, you know, say, no matter what, this is what I'm going to pursue. And that's what I love what you said in regards to, like, a lot of people weren't feeling it, and they were kind of questioning what you were doing. But, man, like, that was your dream, and nobody was going to take it away from you. And I'm sure you got plenty more dreams, man, because I know this ain't it. You know what I mean? Success would be, you know, you being able to tour the country, and you be able to go other parts of the world, which I know you've gone to other places. And because I know you got fans in other places who want to see you perform live. You know what I mean? And so it's like, for us who are a little bit older, man, we got to set that standard of giving you roses and showing you love. and hopefully we can create that model with the next generation. It's like, no, man, we want to see people succeed. Ain't nothing dope about like going to county, and, you know what I mean, and leaving, because we'll give, like, no joke, we'll give high praise for someone leaving Oceanside through county, getting a rain and going. We give a lot of praise for that, you know what I mean. But if someone like is, or you know what I mean, if someone gets I don't want to say gets out of here, but is able to pursue opportunities in a different way, we kind of knock it at times. And that's backwards.
You know, right now, man, this is what I'm about, is getting into the message, you know, instead of the mess. Yeah. You know, everything before right now we were talking, but going forward and you expressing on your music, it just brings me alive on thinking what we're doing right here, right now, this collaborating right here. It may be small. It may be, even for me, what is my road doing? Where am I going with this? I got all these other things, kids, home, you know, wife, school. I'm a sophomore in college. Things are, you know, so how's my platform? What is it that I'm doing? I guess I get to be here with you guys and just talk about how we can improve our city and be clever, unique and stuff that we do, and just give it to the new kids, man, and say, hey, succeed in dreams, follow the dreams, man, go follow it. Don't be held back like man, very few. There's one out of the posse, one out of the clique that just goes all the way through. I got one, dog, Meow. He went to go on and get his master's right when we were in the thick of it.
But how was he received when he first started?
Oh, he got shit, man. Yeah. I'd be the one, man. Where you going, you schoolboy? And remember, stuff, fuck you, Rat. But he went home, and now that I'm doing it, I'm glad I get to come to him and say, yo, man, how does this work? What's up with this? And if we don't break that cycle, then we're going to be without a rapper. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be without somebody who can represent the city and the entertainment, and, you know, way you do. So you guys doing it right here and just this right here. I'm not feeling like I'm perfect even giving an interview. I'm like, man, I feel all funny and shit.
But, man, I think your story is so unique because from what you were able to experience, and then it's like you said, it's the message, right? So the process from like overcoming what you overcame, and then getting locked up, coming home, and like even, man, the trophies is being married. That's a trophy. Being a father is a trophy.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Going through what you overcame and now saying, man, I'm a sophomore in college.
Right.
The fact that you survive all that those are like, bro, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that provides inspiration and hope to other folks who are coming home.
I mean, I've been a chef for 14 years, career-wise, as a chef. So I think about things that I have came up on when I put the bullshit down. I picked up my guitar and I love it. I picked up cooking. I made myself a real boss on it. This sobriety deal, this new way of living through my recovery, it's a daily thing. It's a principle that I live. So all of those benefit to how I can live with my family and in the community. I want to present myself as somebody who got, baggage, but that shit was dropped. And it took a long time. I was just telling the homie right here, it's like my son that I just reunited with. It's not a steak and cake. I don't know how to be a father to him. I want to be one. I know how to be a father to these other two that I got right here, but how am I gonna push forward? Oh, go back and be, rat-a-tat from the set again? No, I'm a G, homie. We can. This is all that has made me to where I'm at, and that's the bigger. That's the push through right there. And I get shitted on a lot for, oh man, are you too good, or are you going Hollywood with this recovery thing or something? Like, man, I'm just trying to live life and follow out my dreams. That's being a dad, playing my motherfucking guitar, spreading love, and watching my babies grow up and giving them something, and just give you guys, or give the city some get back. give the city some get back. Give the city some of the history that we know about, because there's a generation that's lost, and that's like my generation. And there's a lot of folks that are coming back from my generation, and we all have a story, and there's a gosh from all corners, Crips, Bloods, essays, man. The whole city went through hell through the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, can you only imagine? I seen it go down. We seen it go down, as far as even with law enforcement, gangs, even, Mexican mafia type stuffs, and, being on Camp Pendleton with guns coming into the city. All these things were just happening around. I'm like spinning, like, what the hell? What's going on here? Then I got wrapped up in drugs, and where am I at? Oh my God, I'm in Oceanside. Everybody was lost. Every neighborhood was lost. Sad to say, man. That's the real facts that I saw growing up. So we're now all coming back, and I think it's time that we all need to tell that story. Let us all tell that experience of man, we're sitting on Oceanside. Come on, we're talking about CIF champions in all of the freaking world, bro. We're not just talking about one CIF, two. This is a constant. This is our trophy. Oceanside's staple right here. We got Oceanside Junior Seau. We have the history of turning out athletes after athletes, and that story isn't yet told. And those things have to come to light. They're brought up by other people through movies and things like that, but knowing about Junior Seau from the set, you know what I'm saying? Knowing about Teardrop Tony from the set, from the Crooks. This is family, you know what I mean? That we young going over to their houses. But that story being told Hollywood, it's a little exaggerated. Maybe there's some truth, yes. But now that we're all coming back from our caves, believe it or not, 25 years, a lot of my homies is coming back from doing 25. I never thought they would ever see life.
How much time did you do total?
I didn't do much. I came out probably about maybe 5 years total.
But then you were battling the addiction, which is it's like being locked up.
Yeah. It started when I was young. It just really started. It was just this little overweight, dark-skinned Mexican guy in TriCity who just didn't fit in. I just didn't fit in. And I was so insecure. I never really had a problem with relationships. Girls, I'm not saying I'm all that or anything, but as far as with relationships, I was all right. But as far as being accepted from others, I had to be the joker. I had to be the little fat boy who made the clowning jokes and drank the bottle of whiskey and, make girls laugh at. Be the first one in the gang. Be the first one to pull the trigger. Be the first one to do this. Be the first one to do that. It took me the first one to shoot heroin. And I did it all the way through. Be the first one to get married. Had 3 kids. Let's move to Arizona. Man, it's a roller coaster. It was a straight roller coaster from my decisions of wanting to have the street life, but I wanted it. I did want it. I'll tell you that. I did want to see the streets that way. I thought I was going to die at 16. I believed that would have been a good time to die. And when 60 came around, okay, let's roll. I actually even had suicide attempts from heroin. Couldn't even load up the needle fast enough. I already jammed one, and I was just done. I was just, forget this. Couldn't even put the second one in because I was so gone. It hurt, and I had to go all the way down to that road for a long time. I just didn't bounce out of it. Oh, I hit and then bounced. I stayed there for a while. I was there when... If I was to go back to that, let's say this. It wasn't so much as the addiction that's going to kill me. It's the street lifestyle. Because it was violent. You know, the streets, oh, people go back and they die over overdose or drugs too much. No. The way I came from was gangsters. There was a lot of guns. There was a lot of, you know what I'm saying, a lot of, rah, rah, hey, don't make a move. And shit, it came close a lot of that time. So, how do I come back? Yeah, I explained, I had to call out to my higher power. And thank God my family from the east side, right here, that they was there to put that in me. So my cousin, when I found out young, way back then, about how he was following Christ and the family was really believing in God, it made me draw to that. Like, oh, not only is he a gangbanger, but he can believe in God too? I'm with it. Okay, so that was kind of with me all the way through my life. All the way through. And I got to bring it to you, man. I like telling this part of the story too. Is when I got out of prison for the 5th time or whatever. It was my second violation. I was at Donovan and I caught a Dear John letter. Wife said she was done. And I was like, yeah, right. Well, I get home, man, and it was hardcore. She was done. And I thought I could squeeze another, some more out of her. And when she cried with no tears, I knew it was done. And that's when it just went all bad for me after that point right there. I knew I was alone. And that was like for about a good 3 years. So going to prison, coming home, saying I can change. Nobody wanted to hear that shit. But I bounced out of it. It's a long story, but I got a wife now who's, man, my ace in the hole. When I got with my wife, she actually made it familiar to how it was in my first marriage when I was addicted to heroin. Like all of those feelings were coming back as far as, oh, I got one I can enable. I got one I could juice. There's one, and not to say that one was stronger than the other. It's just that this one, I didn't expect her to flash the way she did. I mean, she got gangster with it, pulling knives on me and calling cops real quick. So, it's just trial. And here we are, you know what I'm saying? And when you guys had spoke on last night about around the hour and 11 minute on the, not last night, but I was watching the video, and you guys had bring up the team, you know what I'm saying? I was hearing from you, and it was pretty good that you're saying that, but that's what we need is a team. My team is my wife. That's my team. Me and my wife. You know what I'm saying? That's where it goes.
But I think it goes, you can't do it alone, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? In the process of whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. Yeah. I mean, you can cultivate the dream alone. Right. You know what I mean? But actually, like, making that dream become like a reality, right, it takes a team. You know what I mean? You need folks to believe in you, because there's going to be times, man, you ain't going to believe in yourself. Right. And you need people to kind of hold you up and say, sure, kind of uplift you.
Let me take that back. Yes. It is me and my wife. Let's start with us right there. But then I do got my AKs, man. My ones that I reach out to every day. You know what I'm saying? Miss Bristol, hell, man, it's a daily check-in mentally, where you at, how you feeling. So we're all there, and that's yeah, the team is actually a lot bigger because we're all driving. We're all driving the same way.
Where you driving to, man? What's the dream now?
Yeah, it's actually just I'm gonna head to I'm gonna go into counseling. And I'm being in school. I love learning, bro. I love soaking up game and learning things. My mind can do it now. I'm still unsure at times of how much I can apply to like tests and schoolwork and stuff, but I'm giving it a shot. It is my dream to at least get a good degree, a bachelor's degree. Don't know yet, but see, I've already knocked out 2 of my dreams, and that's guitar and being a chef. This one, man, it's so amazing that I can honestly say, like, I can pick one. I could pick a dream right now, and it's gonna come. I believe it or not, I thought about being a history teacher because I love history. I love, artifacts. I love that. I'm not so good at the school, but taking classes, but that might come. You know what I mean? After a little bit of time, so I can't say what I'm gonna be or where I'm gonna end, but being on the up and up for my family and my peoples and all of my nieces and nephews, that I can be the one they can come to. The doors open without falling into the bullshit, and checking in, making daily reprieve. A daily reprieve over life. You know what I'm saying?
And I think, man, I think that's the Oceanside story, bro.
Yeah.
Like the trials and tribulations, the bounce, bouncing back, and then, like you said, I get to pick my dream now. You know, and I think that you see that in us, the persistence, but also just it's part of, I think, our character growing up here, where you're gonna encounter people asking you where you're from. That's just normal. You're gonna encounter situations where you feel like you're walking this line, but then seeing the bounce back of it, and being able to pursue your dreams, bro. Like the adversity, to me, that's like the Oceanside story, because we're also a blue collar town. You know what I mean?
Right.
We got a lot of landscapers, a lot of construction workers, a lot of janitors, a lot of mechanics. Like a lot of our parents, that's what they do for a living.
Right.
You know, and they develop this character. That's something that we pick up too. That I don't even think that we know that we're picking it up.
Right.
Because we're focused on the streets. We're focused on what our generations are doing. But when we're able to apply what we've seen our elders do, and apply the character of what Oceanside is and who it's made us, it allows you to say, man, like, this is my dream, and I'm gonna pursue it regardless of everything. And you know what's crazy, bro? Because I do see that a lot sometimes. Like, even when you put out stuff, you'll put out stuff and it'll have like 2,000 likes, then I'll see like, I don't know, 60 people didn't like it. Right? And I'm just like, who goes on
yeah, why is that
YouTube
necessary?
to like, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I'm
Just
like,
put the down button, like,
but I don't
just kill them.
But
really
I'm like,
quick, bam.
But I'm like, who does that? Especially with YouTube, because it doesn't like, you can't just swipe. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
after, maybe give us some feedback.
But it's almost like they're like, oh, Dezzy got a new video. Let me go on there and not like it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I have people
like,
that follow me just for that.
I don't like, but to me, it's
but
like
them trolls are sometimes good for you because they'll be up. I got me one. I got one. So,
no matter what you post,
I'm like, bring it, homie. Come on, man.
You already know it's coming.
Yeah. So. I'm like,
but how do you respond to that, bro? Because it's like, I'm sure it's probably easier to respond to it now than it was when you first started. Because now you believe in yourself and you know who you are, and I'm sure you're sure.
No, I think I'm at a stage where my understanding is at its highest, and I understand that certain people, they don't get the opportunities that I do. Yeah. And to be honest, like, I kind of put myself in position to have these opportunities, but some people don't understand that. They just see the opportunity. They don't understand how to put themselves in the position to have those opportunities. Nice. So they think that, why is he having this opportunity? I'm not. And it's not that. It's just you're not putting yourself in that position to get those opportunities. So I just have a big understanding about, like, how people view things. I think also, like, doing what I do, I also get to, like, get firsthand in like, not reading people, but, like, understanding people. I understand a lot of people, and I understand, like, where a lot of, like, even sometimes where their, like, disagreement or hatred is coming from. Like, I understand it, and I can't be mad at them, I could just keep doing me and let them, perceive me how they want. But there's only so much I could do to try to change that. Right. And I can't do that to the 60 people. I can't individually be like, yo, let me sit you down and tell you, what's going on, and what I did to get these, options and possibilities. I did a lot, and you can't tell it to every single person. So for me, I just have a big understanding of how a lot of people, like, perceive things, and I think understanding is, like, the biggest, like, blessing that I've had, to be honest, and it's kept me very optimistic. And even when I see, like, things not going my way, I'm just optimistic because I understand my character and I understand what I'm capable of, and what people perceive of me is what they want, but for me it's like I just gotta keep working, you know. I can't slow down to tell these people about myself and what I've done to get here. You know, I can't tell everybody that, but the best thing to do is to keep working and just keep proving them. You know, proving them.
And I think that work ethic is crazy, man, because it's like you will drop a video. I mean, obviously it goes back to having a team, right? But you will drop a song, a video, and it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. So
you got to keep momentum.
Right, but it's just like, man, it's so powerful because it's like this one hit. And then the next one will hit. And the next one. And if one doesn't hit the way that you wanted it to hit, it's like you're dropping something next week anyway.
Yeah, it never does. Like, it never does.
Like that work ethic is
it never
crazy.
does. The videos or like the things that we do, like in terms of like drops and releases, like sometimes, you know, I have high expectations and it doesn't meet that, you know, and that really can get you down, you know. It's like it's very like character building, bro, like having high hopes and then them just being crushed.
But the crazy thing is though, bro, you don't stay stuck in it. Because I think having the team doesn't allow you to stay stuck in it because it's just like, all right, well, let's on to the next one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the powerful thing about
That's what's so cool about even this right here.
Yeah.
Like, I expected, you know, that it would be y'all. But just shooting the shit and just really being, I mean, I can't even be full with my words. I'm all over with my words. I'm not even on point. But just even that being like a hardship at times where everything's not going to be smooth. Even for your first time around, like, it's going to be hard. I've tried to get, you know, my shit together 1,000 times. And, you know, here it is, you know, I'm going to school and I'm like, dude, am I going to pull it off? I need to stay with it. And with my wife, you were asking about where we were going to go. Yeah. And, as far as we're going to go into like, you know, do this education thing, doing this education. She's about to graduate. She actually has her bachelor's coming in social work, and she's going to pursue law. Our whole family is about education right now. And so that's, to answer your question from before, I think that's where we see ourselves.
But it's the same, man.
It's hard, though. Yeah, I'm not even used to it.
Man, like, from dropping out of high school, and, like, really, like, I stopped doing school, like, in 7th grade, right? So I went to college when I was 20. Man, I got put on academic probation in community college. Failed classes.
How many times, brother? Because I'm on twice right now.
I've been on academic probation 4 times, right?
Man,
and I got a graduate, and you know, I went to law school.
Right.
So
okay.
Like, I was on academic probation at Maricosa.
Oh man.
And then when I transferred to the university, I was on academic probation there.
Right.
And then when I got to law school, I was on academic probation there. My first year in every new school, I was on academic probation, right? And so like. It wasn't all success, man. What it is that, like, even what I was told by counselors in the community college is like, yeah, man, that's cool. Like, what people want to see is you trend up. Mm-hmm. They want to see the trend. Like, if you failed in the beginning, like, you failed in the beginning, what they want to see is that did you have the character to bounce back and the adversity to keep going.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? And so for me, that taught me something, too, because it was like, man, what else am I going to do?
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? Like, for real, what else am I going to do? And so I think that's important for people. The process is I think is more inspiring than like, oh, I just made it. And I'm going to show you the story of like, I'm here.
And talking about it, bringing that out right now, like being transparent, like you had said, I want you guys to know that I don't got my shit together. I don't have that expectation, you know, people thinking, oh, I'm clever with, you know, my words or this and that. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm not that. Just an ordinary dude, man, who got mess ups just like you. But these are my passions, homie, and I'm good at them.
But you pursuing your passion is huge, man. Because I got a lot of family, a lot of friends who have done a lot of time, right? And man, it's like they're coming home, or they just got home, or they've been home for a couple of years, and they're 40, right? But it's like, man, you got another 40 years to pursue your dream, and the fact that you're in it provides inspiration for people. Because they'll see you and they're like, man, he's doing it, man, I can do it. I remember when he was out here, you know what I mean? I remember when he was out here pushing the line and, you know, going through it. And he's, even though he's not, you know, he's just like me. And what I mean by that is like, no one enters college or no one, you know, starts doing music and all of a sudden it's like you got 1 million views. You know what I mean? Or you got a straight A's.
I think the kids nowadays, or not the kids, but the generation nowadays, from where I was, like 2 had already gone past. And I think there's a lot more support in the youth as far as like with, social media, and especially with hip hop, rap, anything that got a beat really is a movement, not just, when one person, but everybody, all my children, kids are just really pushing for Oceanside and supporting, I should say. Like my daughter's in Oceanside Dance Academy, and those guys are just really successful. Okay, Oceanside Pop Warner, they're trudging, but they're keeping it going. And this is for the youth. And what I mean is that there's still dance involved with the cheerleading there. Being that I'm a dad with a girl who does all of this, I get to see it from this point of view. So my wife, she's digging, your music. And my daughter, all of these kids, I go and I see them all like, oh, no, they're doing your dance. And I'm like, that's what's happening. They're accepting it and they're open to it. Not where we were like, oh, we see you. We see you. That's cool. Right on. All right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more support now, and Oceanside knows that they want to be more than just a San Diego city.
It's probably never going to be a San Diego city.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's not who we are. You know what I mean? It's
never
like,
gonna be a San Diego city.
Yeah, that's not who we are, man.
I'm a junior, named after my father. All of us firstborns on the east side are named juniors. There's 7 of us. And having a Raul name, I don't even speak Spanish. I don't. And people are coming up to me.
But an expectation.
Your name is Raul. Because I'm sorry, I was brought up on my poly community, over here in TriCity, I know a few things Southern California, Oceanside can give me on words to get by.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Burrito stop or something like that. But I don't know how to spell fluent Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I get cut down because, oh, you look Mexican? Are you Mexican? Your name is Raul, so yeah. And then I go to the Polynesian side. Oh, you look Hawaiian, you big bride. And I'm like, it's hard at times. Well, take account of, I'm also Mexican, so I'm both, guy. Okay, yeah. Don't just choose me as that I'm just Hawaiian or I'm just Mexican
or Filipino, bro.
Or Filipino, exactly. My last name Ragudo. That's strong name. There's a lot of pride of that name in my family, man. Ragudos, we hold it tall, hold it strong.
Yeah, bro. Being mixed race is like kind of like. It's not really scary, but it's kind of like you're on a thin line.
You just laced me up, man, for real. That's how I feel, real talk. I may have all of these cultures in me, but it is a culture of Oceanside.
Yeah.
That's a good
I think that's what I ended up
Yeah, straight up.
Man, that's what I took on as my identity, at an early age too, because it was like living in the part of Tri-City where I was living, it was like my family's from here. Mm-hmm. My cousins are from there. Mm-hmm. My cousins were from wherever my aunts decided to, or wherever they could afford to live when they came from Mexico.
Right.
Like there was nothing, like they all came from the same village in Mexico. But when they got here, if those that, moved to this side of the city, that's where my cousins ended up being from. You know what I mean? It was just like, it goes back to what I was saying. Like if you got poverty there, lack of resources, you're just going to join the closest tribe closest to you. But I didn't live in that space, man. So I hung out who I hung out with. Mm-hmm. And at times, like, some of my family members looked down on it. Right. They were like, what you doing? But for me, it was like, man, I'm from Oceanside. Like, I'm hanging out with my tribe. This is who lives closest to me. And it's not like, same situation. It's just like, this is who lives closest to me. Mm-hmm. And I think embracing that was more empowering than anything.
No doubt.
Because then it was like, man, I'm for everyone.
And that's what's up.
You know what I mean? It's like something about Oceanside that it's like, I can be anywhere, bro. If I would have met you in New York and you would have said, I'm from Oceanside, I guarantee we're spending 2 hours,
right.
Chopping it up. You know what I mean? Because it's like immediate family.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I think, man, even like my daughters, like having them embrace everything. Mm-hmm. Having them embrace, like, no, they're Mexican. Having them embrace, no, they're Puerto Rican. Having them embrace, they're black. Having them embrace that they're white. And it's like, and having them take that on and say, no, that those are all superpowers.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? And having them like learn and us provide them that history
Right.
of their history is empowering, man.
You know what? With my family, my daughter and my son, you don't even. What are they? If you really were to look at them, my children, and be, what are you? And you would have to only guess by looking at me and mom's. Mom's, you can't even tell because she's black and white. Maybe she's something else. Being in Oceanside, we're anything, bro. You know what I mean? We're really anything. Me being the 3 that I am, my kids have the Heinz 57, you know. But we have to instill in, my wife is really strong of bringing in, you know, showing them of black culture. And that's really strong because they don't look it. And my wife has a clever way of saying, you know, about skin colors and stuff like that. But she doesn't want to leave them out on how hard it is as a, you know, in black culture. You still have this in you. Maybe not as far as like, you know, going through the struggles, but, you know, you may not have to look like it, but let's put this in you. You should know about your black peoples.
Right.
You know, because they don't look it.
Yeah.
They don't even know.
Yeah.
Mom, am I black? Am I white? What am I?
Yeah.
Well, baby, you're this, you're that, you're that, you're that. Well, pick one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's hard too, you know, because some that are just predominantly Mexican and predominantly Samoan. You know, those are the ones that are like, you know, pick
but man,
one,
it was bound to happen here, bro. There was this city was created
Right.
to create my daughters, to create, you know
No
what I mean?
doubt,
You guys, man,
bro.
we had the
That's
military
what's up.
base here. We have the border right here. We got the beach. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I've
El
met families
Dorado.
from Guam. I met families from Filipino. I mean, from the Philippines. I met families from everywhere, bro.
Right.
From like literally, and they came here. And it's like, we're all going to school together. So it's going to pop off. You know what I mean? We're going to have kids that are going to be mixed. And I think at the end of the day, man, that's what makes Oceanside beautiful, man.
Right. And you see that we're like, you know, we have some OGs, you know what I mean, from the east side, you know what I mean, that are just black, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, that's where they were brought up in.
Yeah.
And they adopted everything Latino community. And that, you can't take that from them. They ride with that everywhere they go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that has to be what it is, you know. Hey, are you in a Samoan gang? You in a black gang? Whatever. No, man, I'm with my peoples.
Yeah.
This is why and I went to prison. I had to ask that, believe it or not. Check this one out. My first time in prison, I went up with a dude from Pozole. He was already going. We took the train all the way from Vista County, Bailey, and then we went to the joint. We actually became neighbors. He got there a few weeks early, and he's already getting settled in. We're young, you know what I'm saying? I'm 20, 21, and he's my age. And so I just had to say, you know what I mean? Because I'm on the yard in Donovan, you know, everybody's regular program. I'm on the 3 yard. I'm on the 11 yard. 11 building, 3 yard. Okay, and everybody's got movement, and my people's is not quite knowing that I'm there yet. So what do? I have to ask the first one. I asked the essay, my neighbor, the homie that I rolled all the way up here with, his celly, OG. Looked like he held himself like a real G. I just got at him, yo man, I'm this and I'm that. Who do I ride with? He goes, you ride with your people. You got your people on the yard, right? I said, yeah. He goes, where are they? I go, yeah, they're over here, Big Spunge, you know what I'm saying, from DVBs. Yeah, this is one I need to get to. Oh, yeah, I know him. He's over there. Well, just, you know, hang time. Your peoples are here. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, but, yeah, I'm Mexican, too, okay? And my family's from Pozole. And that was something hard for me to recognize, you know what I mean? I'm going into prison for the first time, and I'm, like, not really quite understanding this. Here's where it real got scary. I'm on the yard and I'm watching traffic, just kind of going circles. And I hear my name being talked over there at this table in front of the 11 building. And it's all Southsider car and shit. And I just heard, yeah, who's that? Because I was standing solo bolo by myself over there in the cut, you know what I mean? Just watching things. I'm just waiting to see my peoples come through. And I heard my name and I seen one essay get up on the table. Small dude get up on the table, took his lokes down and was like, hey, whoop's from, he's from our neighborhood too. I couldn't quite pick out what he was saying, but he was kind of, you could see the way his movement was, is that I should be with them. some kind of politics or whatever may have been talked about, whatever, okay? But that wasn't going to happen, you know what I'm saying? I don't know these people. They ain't mine. But at the same time, man, the big homie D from CMG comes strolling through. Oh, what's up, Rat? We seen you, man. We know you was coming. Let's crack a lap. And we just cracked a lap. So it just took one person to put me, like, these are your peoples, to the whole car where they just wanted to recruit you. No, I mean, I need to stay with mines. And I didn't know that. I had to learn that. About 32 hours on the yard. Pretty deep, you know what I'm saying? When you just have an identity issue, especially in prisons, and, you know, are they going to really get at me? Because I used to get the cracking on you guys, you know what I mean, on the outs.
And I think, man, society does that, man. Society tries to put you in a box.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're this, you're that. And I think that when you get to a level, like you said, man, you're really sure of yourself and where you're at right now, and you're understanding, both of y'all said that, then it's like, nah, man, I don't got to be put in a box.
Right.
I'm going to embrace all of it. And that's something, when you said about his music that was unique, you hear it all in your music. You
got that funk, you got that streets, you got that slang, homie. That's that Oceanside shit.
And it comes out, like, when you hear your music, you can tell that you have spent time with these different cultures, and that you have these relationships, because it all comes out. And I think that's what, especially from our generation, like from my generation, your generation, like, and your like, we vibe with it because we're at that level of understanding now. You used to have people that are younger we're not there yet. So when we see it, we're like, oh, he's putting on for the city.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'll run into people that are in their 40s, and they're like, man, I love what...
Everybody can touch it. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I love what he's doing.
Could jam that right there.
I think, though, for the most part, though, like, my music doesn't really have, like I said, man, it doesn't really have, like, it doesn't really, like, resonate with a certain background. You know?
Right.
Like, if you were to hear my music and you were to not see a single video, you wouldn't even really know what race I am.
Right.
You know? Like, my whole demeanor is just... It's just Oceanside, right. You know. It's not really a certain background or a certain type of people. It's just Oceanside.
You can probably tell who influenced. You know, like, oh man, he's got some Bone Thugs. He's got some Sugar Free. He's got some.
You got the Cypress Hill. You got that Ocean. Man, homie, I'm digging the swing. It's
that's something that, man, like, all the culture in Southern California vibe with. We were all listening to Snoop. We were all listening to Bone Thugs. We were all listening to Nate Dogg.
And I hope that's the new thing right there, that new swing you got, that new, I mean, because everybody's trying to find it.
Yeah.
Everybody really is trying to find what is the new trend, or what can break, you know, the consistency of what hip-hop's been for the last, 6 years. Because before we get a lot of that trap, music,
But you can't really, I mean, in reality, bro, it's like, it's not a trend, because that's just who you are.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's because you were born and raised here. So it's like, you're incorporating, you're representing the city where all the different races and generations can look at it and like, oh, okay, he's putting on for the city. Yeah. And everyone feels represented.
Yeah.
Equally to me, I feel like I try to show love to everybody equally instead of like leaning toward, you know, a specific background. But
and you know what? Everybody love the girls. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Ladies, you gotta have the ladies.
Right. No, we right here thick with the ladies, man.
That should get me in trouble though.
I know it would, man. I mean, but that's the group. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool. I'm digging it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. But
man, there's power in diversity, bro. There's power in unity. There's power in understanding other people's cultures, and there's power in us embracing, you know, the different cultures within the city, but embracing each other. You know what I mean? Because in reality, man, like, when we take a look at like everything that's happened in the city, how things have changed, and even like local government and systems, all of the minority groups are being pushed out or being pushed down. You know what I'm saying? And so like, They hope that the division continues, because if we're not united, then like we really have no power to flex.
Let's speak on it, because even in the mid right now, what had happened a few years ago is putting up them shoebox homes right there. You know what I mean? Right next to the donut shop on both sides. You see that they even try to put in like, you know, a pharmacy, urgent care or some kind of thing there, with also assisting for gay and lesbian community, and then across the street. What's really happened is the gentrification for real. I mean, we can't hide that. Everything, all of this money up on the coast is getting blocked off. You know, anything past Mesa, or really no, actually the 5 or I don't know. All we know is that there's a lot of change that's coming to Oceanside, and we are getting shifted to certain areas, uh, like the mid or TriCity.
Those are the two.
Those are
the mid, TriCity, and the deep.
Yeah,
because if you push everything there, then you can have all the tourism. Like you can create all this space just for tourism, and they can try to replicate San Clemente or Carlsbad, and then just push everyone back there.
See, the deep is so settled though. I mean, with the river and what Camp Pendleton is building right beyond the back gates of hell. You know what I'm saying? That's what the homie would say, the back gates of hell. But all of that caters to Camp Pendleton residents, and then the ones that are in the deep, they've been there for 40, 50, 60 years.
It's that Douglas, Los Arbolitos, Fireside, all those apartment complexes. And the same thing with TriCity with the Sherborne apartments.
Yeah.
Because you have all the apartments in TriCity off Waring.
Bro, by apartments nowadays in the O, man, is running $2,000 easy, and that's not even. And those are just low budget apartments.
In the hood.
Right? Yeah, in the hood.
Yeah.
And we're having to pay for this because of the Oceanside name. We have the sun, we have the beach, but we're paying Oceanside prices for things that are so it's just in time that we need to start making these little movements and letting us know, where you're from. What can we do for the city? Like we were talking about with that the rec park not being open.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We need to start. We're only growing.
Yeah.
We're only growing. And if they're going to even just focus on one side of the city, us residents are paying the price. Just the other day, I was at the birthday party at Buddy Todd, and one of the homegirls there was saying, you know what, our health system, our health care, and I can understand we're in this pandemic and we're getting through it, and that we're overwhelmed, but we want to take pride in our Tri-City Hospital when we're actually getting the lowest service. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's facts, bro. Look,
because I got a lot of my homies that are passing away at Tri-City, and things we should be taking a little bit more.
Tri-City's not even prepared, bro. And I say this, and I'm not trying to say this jokingly, but this is just real, bro. Whenever I had one of my homies or one of my students that gets shot or stabbed, if I know that they're at Tri-City, immediately I'm like, oh, they're straight. Because if it's at Tri-City, that means that if they fly you to Scripps or down to La Jolla,
for the traumas,
right? Then you're like, oh damn, they're
certain,
it's serious, right? But Tri-City's not equipped to deal with that stuff.
No.
So and that's just a reality. I've had friends that got shot or stabbed, and I'm like, where they at?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they're just at Tri-City. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Then they're not that I'm not gonna go visit them. It's just I know that they're okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they're not
in the trauma center.
Yeah, and that's a problem though.
Sure.
Right? Because now you got to be flown out or transported all the way down to 5.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the services.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think there's a problem also that Maricosta can't promote the college in Tri-City. It has to be Palomar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's crazy to me. Yeah. One of the things that I love, man, that you have shared in this space, bro, is you talked about the work ethic of what it takes to get to have the platform that you have. And I think that's important for people to see, because it's they may see the music videos, but they don't see all the work that goes into all right, what's this video going to be about? You know what I mean? Or the song development. They see you putting out these songs constantly, but you got to create that. Yeah. You know what I mean? That means you got to be in the studio creating that. And I think that's important too, for people to see that, because it's you're not saying it from a standpoint of oh, this is what I'm doing. You're saying it from man, this is the blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes, and a lot of people only see the highlight reel,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to even try to cover in a conversation. It's a lot of ups and downs, just like life, except it's a career, but my career is my life, so I treated it that way. But yeah, no, I enjoy it, man. I enjoy trying to figure things out with the team, and it's an endless puzzle, and I have a long way, and I'm barely at the tip of like what this is gonna turn out to be. I'm barely seeing it. You know, I haven't even like been at that level where I feel okay or happy.
It's amazing though, even for us now, to think that if we've already put our foot into it, that it just it just opens up so much doors, that the possibilities are truly endless. If we just got to really believe that through our struggles, and when we go through them hard times, and we are like, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but you do make it somehow, some way, and then you can actually bounce back and think back on that and be like, I don't know how that happened. And if you have enough of those, you're actually forced to believe that there is a power bigger than you that wants to push you in a positive direction. That's my belief and stuff. And especially if you're aiming to create something that's in your heart with passion, you can't go wrong. That's a real deal. Some people take little things and create, and it's all they love. And you can just see them on fire. You can see the passion in their eyes. You can see that. And then with you, man, just straight up, I can see you're humble about it. Like you're really trying to, you know, not walk a fine line, but it is because, you know, we don't want to offend our Oceanside community.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people too, man. Cause
we don't want to hurt our loved ones. And
I've told people in the past, man, or even recently, it's like, man, Dezzy still doesn't feel like he's made it. So like he's grinding. Yeah. And so I was like, anytime that he's being asked to like stop and talk, and I'm talking about fans, I'm just talking about like interviews or whatever. I said, if you're asking him to be a part of the interview, you're asking him to stop working, because this dude's constantly like creating.
Maybe, but that could be another thing too. For him being right here, he gets to keep his momentum in things like, you know what I mean. Be as transparent as you can, so that way they can't hit you with no side shit. You know what I'm saying?
But that work ethic is crazy, bro. Like for real, like it's hella impressive, man. From like, it's a lot harder for someone in what you're doing, because like if you just work, I don't want to say that's the wrong word, but someone that has to be at a place from whatever time to whatever time, you know, they're required to be there. That self-discipline to say, I'm gonna put this much time in today. Yeah. Even though you can get distracted with a million other things, man, that's tough. You know what I mean?
I think a big tough thing about it is like people that do like go to school for a job and they get the job, and you know they build themselves up. Like they're not really getting criticized. You know, like they're doing it for themselves. You know, and at this point, like I have a lot of eyes on me, and you know, like everything I do is being criticized. You know, it's not like I'm doing like a normal job. It's like something that's in front of so many people to see,
and I don't have the skin for that.
It's tough, man. It's tough, you know, and I think the hardest part about it is like working really hard for something, and then like people kind of like still like down talking you when it's like, yo, like I'm working my ass off, you know. And to top it off, I don't really have it like, you know, the team, but we don't really have like mentors. We don't really have like somebody to really guide us, and we're doing all we can. So to talk down on somebody that's like still pushing like the line is like, it's crazy, man. It's something that like you have to have a lot of understanding. Yeah, a lot of understanding.
It's true, because you would have to actually kind of filter that out and catch it. Without me, like I said, I couldn't have the skin for that.
It's tough, man. 'Cause you're right, bro. Like, you're in the public eye. You know what I mean? So everything you're doing is like,
it's seen.
It's seen. Whereas someone else can fail, and maybe only like 5 people saw you fail.
And their family.
And their family, right?
That's what I'm getting at. Like, it's a big thing of like being in the face of other people and taking that criticism and just running with it. You know, like not really letting it get to you. You know, because getting criticized by your family is one thing, but getting criticized by like all these people that have never even met you. Yeah. You know, it takes its toll, but for the most part, I'm very optimistic, and I got the team that criticized me enough, so I'm used to it.
I don't see you respond a lot to that criticism, but I did see you respond to one, bro, and I responded to. I responded to your criticism. I hit you on the DM and I said, "Hey, bro, like that was dope that you said that, but also like they just don't get it." And I think what happened was. When he put out his album cover for his last album, it was him, and then he had somebody that was mixed in front of a lowrider female, and somebody said like, "Oh, you should have just had a Mexican girl. Like, why are you doing that?" And he responded. I think you said something like, "Bro, you don't understand Oceanside." Like, and I think I hit you on the DMs, like, bro, like, that's dope that you said that, but it's like, man, like, that goes back to everything that we're saying, man. Like, they don't understand the city.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. Like, people
You remember that?
Yes, I remember that clear as day, man. And that's not the only time. Like, people always want me to be what they want you to be, and when you're not that person, like, they literally have nothing else to hate on but besides the fact that you're not what they want.
Isn't that the most common is cliche of, like, you know, oh, don't let them hurt you, of what they, when the truth and the fact are, what people do say can do hurt. They do hurt.
Yeah, facts.
And people get away, oh no, just brush it off and keep pushing. No, because you're wanting to be better than the last one, and you're wanting to.
And you're doing it in such a way where you're trying to uplift the
really,
city. You know what I mean? So it even hurts even more.
No,
it's just
exactly.
Like, bro, I'm not dogging anyone.
Like, I thought I was doing good.
That's that part that it's like, man, I'm trying to uplift, and then like
jump on.
Yeah,
homie, come on.
Man.
This is a platform this is about Oceanside.
Yeah,
I'm talking about you, bro.
But I appreciate you saying that, bro, because my daughters are mixed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, when you said that, I was like, yeah, man, like, I get that 100%.
Yeah, it takes a lot of understanding, man, and a lot of, like, faith, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this whole music shit is turned into, like, I don't want to get all crazy, but it's almost like a religion, you know? I'm believing in something that I can't see, but I know I'm going to get there, you know? So it's crazy, man. It's crazy, and you have to have tough skin.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's dope, man. Well, man, I appreciate, man, like, you guys taking the time tonight to just talk, man, and I guess hear that Oceanside story, man. And I appreciate you, bro. Like, I really do, man, and it's inspiring, and to hear about what you've gone through and where you're at now, and even for, like, the journey that you're on. You know what I mean, man? I stay on that vehicle, man. Keep pushing, and it's like, it's inspiring, man. So I know, man, we're thankful for your time, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys so
Love,
much for all of this and chopping it up and putting it on the table and putting it like that, man. We Oceanside.
Facts.
Thanks, man.
All right.